Hello and welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel. My name is Jacob Coleshaw, joined by Sam Yuko, making the return after a short break over the past week. Sam, I've missed you. I love Charlie to bits, but it's not the same not having the three amigos together. How's your week been, mate? How have you been?
Yeah, it's been all good. Made even better by watching the Adam Leventhal two-parter from you and Charlie, which was absolutely brilliant to watch. Great insight into what we could perhaps expect over not just the next few weeks with Watford, but over the next few months with the takeover as well. So always incredibly busy. But yeah, the little break was we were just talking off air before, picked up a bit of an injury. I feel like Watford last season, to be honest with you, with the I've got a problem with my ankle at the moment, so it's just been a lot of physio, a lot of pain. On top of that, uni work as well. So good to be back to celebrate a Watford win.
Sam, to people who don't know what happened, how did you sustain it? It was sustained watching Watford, if I'm
It
correct.
was so part of it was sustained watching Watford. So the original injury came from playing football at uni, which was made so much worse by the tipping point was Preston away a few weeks ago, and me and Charlie were sort of dragging each other up and down the stairs every time we scored. And I left the Preston game being like, okay, I actually need to get this checked out. And it turns out I tore something in my ankle, and the rest of my leg it's not in a good place at the moment. So yeah, the recovery process has begun.
What's the acronym? Is it PRICE? Oh no, it was rest. No, it's RICE, isn't it? Rest, ice, compression, elevation.
Yeah, something along that. And then I've got a whole sort of physio program as well. So I won't bore everyone with the details, but we're on the up. That's the main thing.
Goodness me, it is literally a throwback to last year under Slavan Bilic. That's picked up another knock. Thanks to everyone who's watching live. If you're listening, if you're watching this back, if you could leave a like on video, if you could leave a review on audio, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe, follow us on WD18. We're going to take all your thoughts and questions live, and let us know what you think after the show as well. What you thought of today's win against Chesterfield. It finished Watford 2, Chesterfield 1 in the third round of the FA Cup. Watford first FA Cup win since when, Sam?
Since Wolves at Wembley. And if you want to be even more petty, our first win in normal time since the Crystal Palace quarter-final, I believe, as well. So it's been a long time. But I'll just say this, both of the last two times that Watford have won their third round game, we've gone on to get to the FA Cup final. So booking your Wembley dates for May, everyone, I think.
Wow, that's a great... So I'm thinking obviously the semi-final Wolves, and then obviously getting to the final, and the time before that was under Kike, right? And the Crystal Palace.
Under Kike, Crystal Palace.
Costel Pantilimon decides to kung fu kick Balassi in the net. So, do you know what? I don't really remember that cup run, but obviously I remember the cup run from 2018-19. The first game was Woking, right?
Yeah, it was.
Can you remember the run in 2015-16? Who did we have first game?
Yeah, so we had Arsenal in the quarterfinal when Adlan Guediora scored that ridiculous goal. I think before that I think we played Newcastle. Newcastle was in the other one in 18-19. We had Leeds at home, where I remember they scored one of the most ridiculous own goals I've ever seen at Vicarage Road. God, who else would we have played that season?
So I've just got the run up here. So we played Newcastle at home, then Forest away, Leeds at home, Arsenal in that Guediora game, and then we got to the semi-final against Crystal Palace. And Rio asked the question, Sam, now looking at our run, who do you want in the next round after winning today in the fourth round of the FA Cup?
It was actually... I'm a bit of a romantic for the FA Cup, to be honest with you. So I'm sort of torn between two. Either I'd really want to go to, is it Maidstone that got through today? I think the lowest ranked side team left. So I'd really fancy a game against them. Would also give us a good opportunity at a cup run. But at the same time, I'm looking at some of the teams struggling in the Premier League in the top six: Man United, Chelsea. Imagine that under the lights at Vicarage Road. I think we'd have a real opportunity against them. But inevitably, being Watford, will probably get Man City away. So let's hope we can avoid them in the draw on, I think it's Monday night.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. I was there when we got Manchester City in the FA Cup. I think it was 2 years in a row, in 2012-13 under Zola, and then we went back there in the burgundy kit. The one, actually, if you can see on the video, I've got the doily shirt. And Lloyd Dawley gave me a shirt after the game, pointed me out in the crowd, and I was like, Lloyd, I love you so much.
Tell you what, I sort of tried to block that game out of my memory because I know it was unbelievable. But being a good friend of Jonathan Bond, mate, he had an absolute stinker that day, didn't he? I think we can say that because we spoke to him about it on the channel a while ago, and he admitted it. But remember, I think it was Alexander Kolarov had a shot from about 30 yards out, and it went through Bondy's legs. I'm not sure if you remember that.
I don't remember it. I'm good mates with Bondy, actually.
Wasn't great. It wasn't great.
No, it was a stinker, wasn't it? There was some, just a complete side note. I remember in that 2012-13 one, there was, I think Newton played, Jeffrey Munjibia was on the right, Alex Hayhoe came off the bench, loads of different names. And even you just think of some of these players that maybe played like one game and then didn't play another game for us. But there we go. We're through to the next round. Cook 1881 says, give us Spurs away. Paul asked for anyone at home. I'm a bit of a sucker for the romantic FA Cup tie, so I wouldn't mind a trip to Maidstone. I think that's a really great story under George Elokobi, beating Stevenage 1-0 today. A great win for him. Probably one of the biggest upsets so far in the competition, through to the fourth round. And Watford are through to the fourth round. Sam, we left it late. It was the late show from Tom Dele Bashiru in the 95th minute, which took us through to the fourth round of the FA Cup. What was your overall feeling, assessment coming away from Vicarage Road today?
Not great, to be honest with you. I think we really got away with one. I want to start off with huge, massive credit to Chesterfield. I know, Jacob, you wanted to speak about their supporters, but on the pitch, I thought they were absolutely brilliant. I thought they were the better team throughout. Spirit, desire, and I thought for at least that first half, particularly the first half an hour until they scored, I thought Watford were arrogant, poor, slow, didn't turn up at all. And I thought comfortably that was the worst first half of the season we played. I think credit to us second half. We saw another late goal. And that must be the 10th or 11th goal this season we've scored late on to change the outcome of the game. And I did think we played quite well, particularly for the last half an hour. But on the whole, I think I've sort of left with more questions than answers.
So I'm interested on that first half, Sam, because I thought it was bad. I thought it was really bad, to be honest with you. But I don't know if I'd put it down to being arrogant. I just felt maybe mentally we weren't really up for it, if that makes sense. I think there might be a slight difference. I think arrogance walking on the pitch, maybe thinking you're better than them. There might be an element of that maybe now thinking about it. But I just felt we weren't really geared for the game. It looked like we could kind of turn up and work. I'm very much describing an arrogant team, to be fair. But the point is that I thought mentally it didn't look like we were there. I think Val suggested that at half-time we weren't mentally there. You know, player for player, we've got the better team. There's no doubt about it. Although Chesterfield are doing really well in the National League. I think they're 6 points clear. They've got 3 games in hand. They're looking like they're going to get promoted to League Two. They're pretty much the Wrexham of this season in the National League. They were playing through us far too easy in that first half. So I think we've got to give credit, as you said, to Chesterfield initially. But having said that, I just thought Watford were off it. I thought our passing was poor. The tempo of our passing, our on and off the ball movement wasn't great. And Val suggested it was more of a mental thing. What was particularly disappointing in that first half, Sam? What can you put your finger on it?
I must say as well, I think there was an element that Chesterfield surprised us as well. I think we might have. I think an element maybe we expected Chesterfield to sit back and try and hit us on the break, but they were trying to win the ball back quite high up the pitch, and there were a few opportunities where I thought we sort of had overloads or we had the ball high up the pitch, we won it back, and we had opportunities, 3v3 situations, didn't capitalise. But what I was disappointed with, I mean, we speak away from the attitude like we spoke about with arrogance. I thought the body language was really disappointing. I think I said this, I don't think there was a player out there who put in more than a 3 out of 10 in that first half in terms of performance output and in terms of effort, which I thought was really, really, really disappointing. Because often, all right, you can sometimes get away with it if you've got a few players putting a 5, 6, 7 out of 10 in, and then everyone else putting in 3s, even though that's not good enough either. But I don't think there was one positive at all in that first half, other than the fact that it wasn't more than 1-0. From the goalkeeper all the way through to the forward line, I thought everyone was poor. And that was what was disappointing in the first half for me.
Yeah, I mean, Bedless in the comment section makes an interesting point. I wish we could see some of the team talks that Val has with the players at half-time or something like that, because you did see an improvement in the second half, I thought. I wanted to give credit to Chesterfield in that first half. They played really well. I thought, despite us at times making it easy for them, and I thought it was just weird, wasn't it? I think we were like sitting off them at home, and I was kind of like, we're being really passive here for no real benefit. But I thought Chesterfield were good, and they thoroughly deserved to take the lead through Joe Quigley. Sam, you wanted to touch on maybe some areas we can improve with that goal?
Yeah, I think for me, eyes have to be on Daniel Bachmann for it. I sort of feel sorry for Dan. I feel sorry for Dan in a way because he was obviously brought back in today. I think it was the right decision not giving him the captain's armband because there was so much pressure. I think everyone knew that every minute thing that Bachmann was going to do in that game was going to be analysed by every single supporter, every kick, every touch. And I think it was probably the right decision not giving him the captaincy to think about on top of that. And I think the pressure really got to him today, to be honest with you, and none more so than the goal. I think his positioning was absolutely all over the place, way too close to that front post, which gave him way too much to do in terms of shifting over to the other side of the goal where, is his name Quigley?
Yeah, Joe Quigley, big striker as well.
Yeah, the header at the back post gave himself way too much to do because of his original positioning, which I just thought was really, really disappointing. But at the same time, I don't want to dig out Dan too much because, like I say, I feel bad for him in some ways. I think he also made up for it, but he made a fantastic save at the start of the second half as well, in fairness to him. But I just thought, like you say, Jacob, you've used the words passive throughout that first half, and I thought that the defending for that goal was really, really passive.
Yeah, I thought James Morris could be doing better initially as well out on the left. Batman's positioning was poor. And to be fair, that goal was coming, as you say, Sam. I think when I watched that first half from the Lord Graham Taylor stanza, I was kind of thinking we're not at the races here today. And I thought it was going to be another one of those FA Cup third rounds for us where we don't really just get out of first gear. I think passive was probably the words for that first half. Second half, Sam, Val's clearly had a word at half time. He's given them a rocket as he has on quite a few occasions this season, actually. Why do you think before we touch on that second half, why do you think we've been quite slow in games? We started so quickly at QPR, and I can't remember us really having coming out the blocks quickly in another game. That's the one that stands out to me anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sometimes either seems to take half an hour for Watford to sort of click into gear, or it takes the other team scoring to really wake us up. Look, I'm not sure whether it's a tactical thing or a psychological thing, but it's one that definitely needs to be looked at because certainly if we are looking at securing playoffs in the Championship, there are teams that are going to ultimately punish us if we only start playing after half an hour or in that first half. A better team today, with all due respect to Chesterfield or higher up the divisions, would have punished us ultimately. And I think, like I say, I'm not sure if it's psychological, whether it's an element of sort of just needing to find your feet in the game, but it's something that's definitely needs to be addressed. I'm not sure. Why do you think it is?
Today specifically, or just in general?
I think all round, because I think, like I say, I think it's a real problem because I think huge credit, and we'll come on to the second half, massive credit throughout, not just today, but this season as a whole, the resilience of this Watford side and the character in the last 20 minutes, half an hour of games has been absolutely brilliant, the best we've seen in ages. But I just fear that come the bigger games in the second half of the season, if we get to the latter rounds of the FA Cup or a playoff push, like I say, these slow starts are going to come back to haunt us. So why do you think we don't just seem to start games well at all?
Well, I think if I'm talking about today, I think team selection probably played a part in it a little bit. I didn't look at our team and felt that we had a lot of pace or speed in the game. So I thought it was quite hard for us to actually build into the game. I think the difference you saw with us starting the second half was as soon as Andrews came on, it gave us an out ball. Whereas I think with Tom Dele Bashir at right back, as we saw in the second half, he's so much better in that number 8. I just feel we didn't really have a lot of width going out wide. And even when you look at the two attackers with Asprilla and Martins wasn't really in the game. Asprilla wasn't. It was at times, but they're both cutting in. I didn't feel there was a lot of pace and there wasn't many runs in behind. Now, going back to what you said about why we're starting slowly, maybe it's the load, the intensity of training. I'm not too sure. This is very much rumours. I can't really put my finger on it. I think Val will probably know. He couldn't really understand why we were playing like that in the first half. He put it down to a mental thing. Maybe it's a mental thing in the sense that we think we can just ease ourselves into games. We're good enough to ease ourselves into games. But as you say, Sam, there's some teams like today with Chesterfield, they're going to come out the blocks quickly. We all knew what we were going to expect. They brought 4,000 fans away from home. The top of the National League. It's a big FA Cup game for them. We all knew they were going to be intense from the get-go. So I'm not too sure. I think Val would probably give us the best answer on that. But it seems like he's putting it down to mental. So, Sam, what did change in that second half then?
I think, like you said, I think there was definitely words in there from Val. I think with Ryan Andrews at right back, I love Tom Dele. We're going to have to talk about how good he was in that second half, but he's not a right back. And we just looked so much more balanced with Ryan Andrews out there, who I thought was really, really good. Other than a couple of loose touches, we just seemed balanced, and he was brilliant in midfield, Tom Dele as well. I think it was those sort of minor tweaks. I think were really, really good. I think we saw the best of Milivojevic. I think you mentioned it previously, Jacob, but I think the way we should be using Rivic going forward is games like today where we're on top, but we're chasing a goal. We need sort of that big man in the box who you can just put the ball into. A lovely ball from Asprilla, a great finish from him as well. And I think it was those changes, particularly Rivic, Andrews, and moving Tom Dele into midfield, I think were the big ones that ultimately won us the game today.
Yeah, for sure. I thought there was a big difference in the second half. I think the sub made a difference. I was calling for it, to be fair. Just at half time to my dad, I said to him, we need to get Dele Bashir into midfield. It made sense with Kone picking up a yellow card as well. Get Andrews onto the right. I guess the one question mark, Sam, is that right back slot, because Ryan Andrews obviously is, if we could, we'd start him every single game, but there's a big thing made by Val and the sports scientists about the load on the players and the way Andrews plays and the amount of sprints he does. Ultimately, that load threshold is going to be quite high. So Dele Bashiri does provide us that sort of emergency option at right back, but do you think that's probably the priority position now going into January?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure who it was who said it, but I think Val probably would have gone off. I think the big takeaway for Val is that we probably do need to address a lot more positions in January that's perhaps being let on. I know there's probably a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but I think with Jamie Ngakia seemingly out, I think, for the foreseeable future, and they like to rotate Ryan Andrews, I think a right back, I think, to provide competition for Ryan Andrews and to come in for him as well when he needs resting, I think is going to be really, really important. It's one of the most important positions in this Watford team, I would argue, the right back slot. We seem to like going down that right-hand side quite a bit, I think. And it always seems to either be a problem of an area that either causes problems for us or an area that we seem to really, really use positively. So I think it's going to be really important that we sign a second right back in the window.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple of comments on Tom Dele Bashiri. Geordie says, Tom Dele has always been a fantastic midfielder, struggled in passive injuries and now position, but when he plays in midfield, he's excellent. We need Bedler says we need a decent, experienced right back that doesn't mind sitting on the bench. Ben Shelton says the last time we regularly finished strongly but started slowly was under Jukanovic. I think that's a very, very fair point. Siren says let's have some likes for Jacob and Sam to get them in. If we can get to 100 likes, that'd be great. Yeah, Geordie, we struggle with pace. Our only quick player is Andrews. Not sure on Hurtado yet. We'll get on to Hurtado in just a moment. So as Sam mentioned, Ryan Andrews came on. Milivojevic, Imran Louza, Hurtado. Rivic got us back into the game on the 76th minute. I think as Sam mentioned, the two wingers swapping side made a big difference because, as we've said before, if you're going to have Rivic, a guy who's a poacher, he's a box striker, you need to have the two wingers, a left footer on the left and a right footer on the right for the balls in. And I think the best thing about that goal for me, Sam, and take away the finish, was actually the run he made, because the amount of times I've been crying out for Rivic to get across his front man and win the header, it's been so many times, and he did that, and he changed the game for us. I think as soon as that went in, I don't know from your perspective, but I felt the momentum changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I was starting to think it was inevitable that we would win the game from that point. I think it was just a case of getting that first goal. I mean, loads of credit. I think the first half of the first hour probably took so much out of Chesterfield playing against a team 2-3 divisions above them. So I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think it was inevitable. Bit shame that we couldn't get it done sooner, and we have to do it in the most Watfordy way possible. But yeah, really good that we did manage to get the win in the end.
And I think with Chesterfield as well, they did look a little bit leggy. I thought from about 60 minutes onwards, one of their players went down for cramp. and you could tell just slowly but surely they were losing a little bit. Having said that, if we flip it, they did have some chances. You know, I remember there was that one free header. I forgot the player who headed it wide, but it was a header which you'd expect him to score. I think Batman had to make a relatively comfortable save, but I think they probably troubled more in the first half. Is that fair to say, Sam? Rather than in the second half, they had that one chance from a set piece, but I can't remember much else apart from that.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to fatigue. I think one of the players that might have been their right back, who I was really, really impressed with, I think went off with cramp. So yeah, I just think it comes down to fitness. And again, credit to Val, credit to whatever we were doing in pre-season, because the fitness of this Watford side and the stamina is so much better than what we've seen for a few years now, actually.
Yeah, I think Sam was referring to Shackelford, the number 22. I thought Dobra, 17, had a good game as well. He looked like a player who could play a couple of leagues above the National League, and obviously Quigley with the goal as well. I think it's Oldacre at number 8 was technically quite a good player. So they were a team that could have quite easily caused an upset, and they weren't far away from doing that. But thanks to Tom Dele Bashiru popping up in the 95th minute, the late Watford show from Tom Dele Bashiru. I think the thing I say about that goal, Sam, Hurtado's involved. We'll just touch on him in a second, but he gets the ball, he plays it inside to Dele Bashiru, and if you watch it back, he just glances to his left to check the space which he takes that first touch into. And I've seen some people say it was heavy. I actually think he did that deliberately, Tom Dele, because if you watch him, he's worked out the space. He's gone like that, played the ball, played the touch into that space, and then it's great feet from there to take the ball around the defender and then dig it out with his left foot into the Chesterfield net. Was a lovely bit of play from Tom Dele. But I guess the bigger thing from this, Sam, is him in that number 8 position. Do you feel like he's the player to fill in Kayembe's shoes at AFCON in the next month or so?
Yeah, I think he could be. Georgie Shakfatadze I've been impressed with recently as well. But I think I thought it was a brilliant finish. I thought it was a typical instinctive finish. Like you say, he just sort of took that, made that look to the side, quickly moved his feet over and was able to finish off as well. So I think Tom, what he offers us in midfield is really, really good. I think he's good at driving the ball forward. He scored goals, as he's shown this season, first day against QPR, for example. And I think he's got a really unique and valuable skill set that I think this team could contribute, that he can contribute a lot to this team with. I think he's a slightly different player to Kayembe. I think he's a bit more, not just versatile, I think he's a bit more flexible as well, just with his body movement as well. So yeah, I think he certainly could be, and I think it'll be interesting to see who does play there between him and Shakfatadze.
Yeah, 2 great goals, as Odgster says in the comment section. 2 brilliant finishes, 2 great goals. Few comments before we touch on some individuals. Mark says loser did not impress at all, I'm afraid. But Surin says I still have hopes for loser in a Watford shirt, as Val said with Andrew French this week. The Mets rumours aren't 100% as concrete as being made out. Odgster says Watford started very well earlier in games against West Brom and Hull and against Ipswich. We should have won them all, but didn't. And a shout out to Chesterfield from my bedless. 4,000 fans away was mental, though. I thought they only got 2,000 players on a good game at home in that league, but I was mistaken. I thought Chesterfield, huge credit to them, coming down in their numbers in 4,000 in that away end today. But I think there was, it was a touch of class from their fans, not only at half time with Captain Tom Sawyer's family on the pitch reading some words, and they showed their respect not only for Tom but also for Graham Taylor at the 72nd minute as well, which I thought was a lovely touch. So a huge shout out to the Chesterfield fans for that lovely tribute. Couple of comments from Mark. So Hurtado, who came on as a right winger, is left-footed like his Colombian mate Asprilla. They've both played together for the Colombia under-20s and a tournament as well. Hurtado, Sam, initial impressions. I thought he looked bright but very raw.
Incredibly raw, even more raw than João Pedro and Richarlison. I know it's very difficult to go off sort of first impressions like this, but I think when Richarlison came in, he immediately hit the ground running. Remember that Liverpool game, 3-0 Bournemouth away. We won 2-0, I think it was. João Pedro's first cameo in the Cup, and also when he came on away at Arsenal in the game where we got relegated. I think Hurtado looks a lot more raw than both of them. I thought his touch was a bit loose at times, and I think his decision-making needs a lot of work. A few times he could have released the ball a lot sooner, and his runs as well could have been timed a bit better. But look, this is what you're going to get with a player like that. It was really refreshing to see a player who was able to really want the ball and drive with the ball forward, that sort of South American flair that we've seen so many times over the years in the Pozzo era. Obviously, he played a huge role in the second goal as well. So, yeah, I think while there's a lot to work on the whole, I was really, really impressed. And I think there's definitely something to work with there.
He looked bright. I mean, he set up the goal, so an assist on his debut is always nice. I think at times you could tell he was kind of adjusting to the pace of the English game. It's probably what I would say. I think the main thing when you play football in England is probably the physicality of it. And Chesterfield are quite a physical team as well. I looked at the sizes of their players. A lot of them were absolutely huge, particularly their striker and their central midfield as well. I thought Hurtado, he looked bright. He looked very raw. The position I see him in, Sam, is a player who can come off the bench, potentially, change the games up. Let's just say we're 1-0 down with 15 minutes to go and we want something a bit different and we don't really know the opposition doesn't really know what to expect. I think he'd be quite a good option, but I think he's probably a little bit far away from starting for Watford now. Would you keep him for the rest of the season, have him as an option off the bench, or would you send him out on loan again for another 6 months?
It's difficult. I'd probably say another loan, to be honest with you, based on what I'd seen. I don't want to sound too harsh. I don't know if it's sort of, if he's above the level, but I'd look at sending him out to League One, to be honest with you. Like I say, just to adapt to the pace of the English game and the physicality of it. I think it would be a really, really positive learning experience for him. But I'm also not against, like you say, 5-10 minutes to go in a game and we need to chuck something on a bit different. I'd probably go with him over Tom Ince, to be honest with you, over what we've seen so far. I think he's sort of a wild card, perhaps, in the second half of the season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a wild card's the right way to describe him. I agree. I think he looked really raw. I think if we can give him 6 months, I'd probably keep him, if I'm honest. I think give him 6 months, bed in, have a few cameos here and there, maybe get him involved in the next round of the FA Cup. So come the start of next season, a full pre-season, he can come straight in. I think the one thing you say about him, Pedro initially came in for us. I think it was Trammy in the third round of the FA Cup, wasn't it, in 2020? Yeah. I thought he looked really raw at the time as well, to be fair. I think Hurtado looks more raw in terms of his positional play and stuff like that. But I think if we give him time, I think it will help working with Asprilla as well, because they, both Colombia internationals, both are mates as well. I think having him round his sides while he adapts to the English game and you just, a completely different setup for him as well.
Yeah, I think Giles stayed as well, didn't he? I think he was in and around the under-21s in that first season, which I think could be another option as well. If he's able to play with the under-21s and be in and around the first team on the occasional match day and in training sessions, I think that could be really beneficial as well for him.
And you think about Asprilla's already 20, the amount of football he's played for Watford. So I think it is just genuinely a case of betting him in. It was different with Asprilla in the sense that I think we actually needed him. I remember when Edwards came in, we actually needed Asprilla. I looked at the squad and I thought we need someone like him. So he didn't really, we kind of fast-tracked his development at Watford. Just on that, from Rios, Sam, what's your thoughts on Tom Ince not playing recently? I thought he was going to get a run out today. He didn't.
Yeah, I think there's a few players who might be a bit disappointed not to have got a run out today. Matty Pollock is another one I think will be perhaps a bit disappointed that he didn't get one. I think those were the two glaring ones for me, that Pollock and Ince didn't play. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with both of them throughout the rest of this window, whether they're going to look to go and get some game time elsewhere. In terms of Ince, I don't think he's done enough, to be honest with you. That's not to say he's a bad player. I think he's shown some really, really good moments, scored a great goal. I think it was against West Brom. But I just think in terms of off the ball, I don't think he's perhaps dynamic enough. I don't think he's quick enough either. So, yeah, it won't shock me if Tom Ince looks to move on this window, if we've got a replacement lined up as well.
Mark Schofield says, incredible that Tom Ince has not come off the bench for, 7 games now? We'll have to wait and see if Tom could be on the move potentially in January. It seems like Val doesn't particularly fancy him. Just a few comments from the live chat. Thanks so much to everyone who's watching at the moment. If you could leave a like, subscribe, follow our social channels, that'd be massively appreciated. Mike B2384 took my 10-year-old and 7-year-old daughters today, their third match. Never underestimate how special days like today are in cementing their love for Watford. Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic point to make. I saw Thomas James Design on Twitter taking his little one to her first game today. I saw Matt Furness on Twitter take his little lad to his first game today as well. So look, it goes a long way. And I think, I took my cousin to his first game on Boxing Day, and he absolutely loved it. And we lost 4-1 to Bristol City on Boxing Day. And some people would say that's the worst Christmas present you could have, but he was absolutely buzzing. I think it does really go a long way, days like today, especially on the GT match day as well, Sam, which was a lovely moment before the game. Obviously, I think Hoop was a lovely touch from Hoop, actually going over to Graham Taylor's, going over to Rita, Graham Taylor's partner, and their family, just to say hello and give them a hug ahead of the game. And then obviously with all the scarves, Sam, as well, at Vicarage Road. It's just a lovely moment, because there was a lot made about putting the Graham Taylor match day on this day. But I think one thing that, because obviously it wasn't going to be a complete sellout, but I think one thing, if you flip it, you go, all those young fans that are going to their first game will get the chance to experience that. And I think that's such a special thing to experience.
Yeah, definitely. Particularly as well, playing against the non-league side, who Graham was supposedly really, he was a big advocate for the lower leagues and the non-league. That neither of us were alive during the Taylor era, but we sort of see the impact now as the younger generation. We still see that his name is very much alive around Vicarage Road, the statue outside the ground, the stand, seeing his family there today. And I just like Mike from the Rookery End put a tweet out. I just love the simplicity of the scarf idea, just knowing that once a year around this date, we're going to have everyone bringing their scarves on a match day in memory of Graham. It's always relatively emotional. It always looks absolutely brilliant as well. So yeah, fantastic day remembering the great man, and brilliant that we got the win for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last minute winner really did cap off the Graham Taylor match day really, really well. Sam, just looking ahead with this Watford team, how much do you read into the game today? How much do you read into the performance? Most people that I've seen are saying, as long as we've got the result, that was the main thing. Are you looking into it a bit deeper than just the result itself?
Yeah, I think obviously there is, in the cup, it's about getting the results. I think we're obviously going to be playing against different level of opposition in the Championship, which I think alters our own performance. Some players I think we're going to have to ask questions of. For example, I think now we know that we can't play Tom Dele at right back. His best position is in central midfield. We've spoken on Dan Backman already. Someone I wanted to bring up, Jacob, to you was Reece Healey, because the argument is that, I mean, I don't think he did too well today, Reece. The argument is he should be playing in the front two, but Val wants to play with one up front. So I wouldn't change the system just to accommodate Healey. So if an offer comes in this January, have you seen enough to keep Reece Healey on, or would you get rid?
I would keep Healey purely for that option off the bench. I think there's been a lot of games where he'll come on as that second striker, win the flick-ons, chip in with the odd goals we saw against Southampton. The fact that he's played with Bio before at a previous club means that he can play in a two with him as well. I think it just gives us that option. Let's say Rajvic or Bio aren't firing on all cylinders. We can bring Healey on just to complement him. And I think what Healey does well is he brings others into the game. I don't think he can play as a lone striker in this system, though. I think I've seen enough to suggest that, personally. Some people would say it's a bit hasty, but I don't think the way Val plays with a one up top suits him. And maybe it might be a different story if he came on with the two wingers not being inverted. And some would argue maybe he didn't get a lot of service today. But I just didn't feel like he was in the game, really. It was two big Chesterfield centre-backs. He basically marked him out the game. Potentially could have done a bit more, but I don't think I would keep him. I just keep him as a player that we can play if we wanted to play two. Now, I don't think Val will ever play two from the start. I don't think that's the way he wants to play. But if we want to bring him on off the bench and change the momentum of the game, and if we're one down or we need to get a win, he's almost a perfect player to bring on because he offers something a little bit different, and he thrives playing in a two partnership, in my opinion. So Mark says in the comment section, Healey is worth keeping, but not to start as a lone striker. Is that where do you sit on it, Sam?
I think I agree with you. I've seen enough. I don't think he should be starting for this Watford team, but I think only in situations where we're chasing games and we go with two up top, particularly him and Rajvic. I think that's the best way to use him from now on. And you also mentioned that sort of game again. I think it was the game against Blackburn where it was a scrappy goal, and we know that he's able to get on the end of those. So credit him for that. But I think what I learned today is that he's just not good enough to play up top by himself.
I think in the system, I don't think he plays to his strengths, if I'm honest. I think he's almost like a traditional 4-4-2 striker, Healy. I know it sounds like quite simple, but someone where like it's a big man, little man partnership. He might drop deep, the other one drops longer, or drops further on, or drops a little bit deeper. And I think him and Bio actually work well together, quite well.
Yeah.
Because they alternate quite well, and you can tell they played with each other before. But I just don't see Healy as that lone striker. I don't think that's his game. I think if I was going to rank up striking options in Val's system, I'm not saying this is the best strikers. I think Bio's our best option in that striker role in Val's system. And then I'd probably go Rivich and then Healy. But I think Healy as a striker is probably the best finisher. Bio's the best off the ball. Actually, no, Rivich is the best finisher, sorry. Rivich in the numbers, sorry. Rivich is the best finisher, followed by Healy, followed by Bio, probably. Actually, then having said that, Bio scored 5 goals. Would Healy have the same amount? Scrap that. My point is, Bio, for this system, I'd always go Bio, Rivich, Healy. And yeah, in terms of finishes, Rivich, as he showed today, is probably the best finisher. But the all-round game, I think Bio's a better striker. So one of those where if we could merge all 3 of them together, I think you'd probably have the ideal striker. Yeah, the ideal striker for this Val system.
Yeah.
Couple of other individuals I wanted to touch on today, Sam. Matheus Martins, quite quiet, I thought.
Quiet, looked frustrated as well throughout. I think that's credit to Chesterfield, to be honest with you. I thought they dealt with him really, really well. Interesting one, Martins, isn't it? Because he's sort of been in and out of the team this season. I think questions have to be asked about his end product. He's certainly not the finished product, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of the season because he's only on loan from Udinese, isn't he? So, yeah, interesting to see about what happens, whether we sort of try and keep him on come the end of the season or whether his future is in Italy, which I think perhaps he might be slightly better suited to. I do really like him, but I think at times he perhaps takes a bit too long on the ball or his decision-making still needs improving. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one.
I think it's just a bit telegraphed sometimes with Martins. I always know he's going to cut in. And I think potentially we might be better switch him to the right-hand side so we can go either way. I just feel every time it's like, I know he's going to cut in. I feel like he's lost his yard of pace as well a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's lost a bit of confidence. I'm not sure. I think maybe it was that spell out of the team, but he doesn't look like the same. I can't remember which game it was earlier in the season where he was cutting. He cut in about 5 times. He hit the post. It might have been Birmingham at home, I want to say.
Was it Blackburn where he hit the bar?
Blackburn as well. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. And it just doesn't look like the same player, I don't think.
Jordy makes an interesting one. Would you swap Martins with João Ferreira in January?
So I don't think this is the rumor. I think what the rumor is that come the summer, I think we'll give them Ferreira permanently and we'll take Martins off them permanently, if that makes sense, because both players are on loan. But it was a shame when we got rid of João Ferreira in the summer. Actually, we could do with him now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we could. Him rotating with Andrews, like the way I look at this right back situation, though, Sam, is Andrews as a starter and bring in someone who can fill in for him if he's not available. But I'm hoping it's someone with similar attributes in the sort of pace and those runs. We need those runs, particularly at fullback in this system. I think. Like I like Morris. I think he's good. I don't think he's explosive going forward, but defensively he's a lot more assured. So I think it works as long as one of the fullbacks is a bit more aggressive. I think that does work quite well. I think if you have both of them going forward, it would mean that you'd leave the 2 centre backs quite exposed. So I actually think the balance between Andrews and Morris is quite nice. Pardon me, but it does mean that Livermore has to provide a bit more protection to the 2 centre backs. In that case, if you went for a different left back or you played Sema at left back, for example, because Sema's a bit more offensive going forward, and even Jamal Lewis, I think Morris is a better defender than Jamal Lewis. I think, but going forward, Lewis is probably better. So. Yeah. I think that's certainly one to look out for going forwards. We mentioned Martins, Healy, Asprilla, Kone, who only played 45, should have scored in the first half. We didn't touch upon that one-on-one, Sam. That was a big chance. I think Asprilla had a chance, didn't he, in the first half as well. So despite us not playing that well in the first half, we did have opportunities.
Yeah, we did. We created a lot. Yeah, it's just about being clinical, particularly in these sorts of games, and we did get punished in that first half. I know, yeah, we spoke about that slow start earlier, but like you said, we did create opportunities. A lot of them were from Chesterfield mistakes. I think we caught them on the halfway line a couple of times or in their own half, and we really should be taking those chances. I think an area that needs to be improved throughout this whole Watford team is the finishing, to be honest with you.
What, in general or just specifically?
In general, yeah. I just don't think we take enough opportunities. I don't think it's weird saying we don't score enough goals because we scored, for example, 5 the other week. We scored 3 the other day at Plymouth, but I think we could be scoring so many more goals. So I think we miss a lot of opportunities, and I think a lot of players need to work on their decision making, which I think we saw today quite clearly, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. Just final thoughts, Sam. Next round of the FA Cup, we're through. What's your attitude towards the Cup this year? Are you seeing it as something we can build momentum on? Are you wanting a long Cup run, or are you not too bothered?
I love a Cup run. I think if we're being realistic, I think we could get playoffs. We're in the hunt. It would be naive to say we're not, but I think it's going to be incredibly difficult. And I think if we can have a Cup run on the side, not only could that have a positive impact on the league form, I think it's always special having a Cup run. Ultimately, we've only got to 2 Cup finals in our history. I don't think we'll get to an FA Cup final this year, but if we can get deep into the tournament, have a couple of big games at the Vic against Premier League sides and beat them, I think it would be really special, and I think it would sort of mark the continued progression of this Watford team. We've struggled in the Cup over the last few years in both the Carabao Cup and in the FA Cup, and I think the fact we've got out of this third round now, I think hopefully will give us confidence to hopefully go deep into the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be really good to have a Cup run this year. And I think Val, and credit to him, he was no messing around with that lineup today. Yeah. He went strong. He made a couple of changes, but that team was good enough to beat Chesterfield. First half, I didn't think we were looking that way. Second half, we stepped up the performance, and Tom Dele, I thought in the second half deserved that goal because he was really, really good. But credit to Val. No messing around. He took the competition seriously, and I think he will do because he knows the momentum it can build. And there's no harm. It doesn't matter who you play in the FA Cup. Getting a win breathes momentum, and that's what Watford did today. It finished Watford 2, Chesterfield 1, and we're going to wrap up with one of the best comments of today. McCook 1881. 7 more sleeps until we get to watch the Georgian De Bruyne tear up QPR. Sam, are you going to the QPR Loftus Road away next Sunday?
I will be next Sunday. It's a bit of a shame it's so early on a Sunday, but I will be there buzzing for it. QPR away wasn't great last year, but an opportunity to perhaps right some wrongs and hopefully add to when we've had some great games over the last few years there, including an FA Cup. Was it a quarter-final last 16 there, I think, where Etienne Capoue scored and we won 1-0. So, yeah, hopefully we can see more of that and less of what we saw there last season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there as well at Loftus Road on Sunday, midday start. Sam, what time is that first beer getting open? That's the question.
Go 7 a.m.
By the way.
Sorry?
Are you doing dry January?
I'm not there. Nah, too many away games in January. I can't do it. Can't do it dry. I mean, we got the Sheffield Wednesday game now away would have been moved because of the FA Cup win, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, and back to uni as well. So at least for this year, no dry January for me. What about you?
I'm giving it a go. Just to see what it's like. I mean, I'm not a massive drinker anyway, but like, I just want to see a month, 30 days of no alcohol. Like, is my sleep going to be improved? Is my energy going to be improved? I'm just interested. I'm basically
until we beat QPR and the champagne comes out. That's when dry January can end.
This is the thing. If Chatford Detsy scores a hat trick, dry January it ends for me. So 7 a.m. Sam is the first beer. Is that what we're saying?
We'll go with that. Yeah, 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. and then off to Loftus Road.
Stella in the Callogs. That is Sam Yuko Sunday lined up. Let us know what your plans are for QPR. If you do see us at Loftus Road, come and say hello. We really do appreciate it. And thanks for all the support on the channel over the last week. We've got 2 videos of Adam Leventhal, one on the ownership situation and potential investment, and the second one on transfer chat. So make sure you do leave a like on the video on the way out. Check those videos out. Subscribe to WD18. You can follow myself and Sam on socials or just below us at Jacob_Coleshaw, at Sam_Yuko, at WD18 fans and WD18. It's always a mouthful at the end of the show, but make sure you do all of that. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Have a great week and rest of your week. And we'll see you then. Take care. Up the Hornets. You odds.